That's your quick way.
Wait, I need my notes. I'm so stupid.
Oh, yeah, go get those. Here, I'll hold down the fork. Oh, it's gonna go off.
Your handwriting is a sight to behold.
Isn't it lovely? Okay. I can't tell how much of that is in there. It probably got Pulp Diction. Okay.
Let's do it.
So yeah, let's do it. I'm good if you're good. Are you good?
I think I'm good.
Excellent. Welcome back to the Pulp Diction podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Gibson. Who am I here with?
Katherine Van Hook.
Katherine Van Hook, previously
She's
joined.
back.
She's back. Previously on the Sinners episode, which was a good episode. I was happy with that one.
A little messy. A lot of talking over each other. But we had lots of things to say.
It happens. It happens when you have like multiple, even two people, and then when you add more to the mix.
Yeah.
It gets bad. And then when you have four, like the Pulp Fiction episode, 2 episodes ago, that was bad.
Go watch that one.
Go watch that one. And go watch the Sinners one. Catch up before the Oscars, a week from Sunday.
Are you going to do like an Oscars episode?
That's the plan.
Wait, that's so fun.
Yeah, I have 8 of the 10 Best Picture winners watched.
Okay.
I'm going to get the other 2, and I'm going to get Declan on, featured in the Pulp Fiction episode. And we're going to have a chat about the Best Picture nominees. So that should be fun.
Exciting.
And yes.
We're talking about one of the Best Picture nominees today.
Good segue. We are discussing one Best Picture nominee today. We're actually discussing 2 films, though. And they're both very relevant right now. And what are we discussing on this fine evening?
We are discussing Del Toro's Frankenstein and Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights.
Yes. And I was very surprised when you came to me with this idea. You came to me with this idea a while
early on,
ago.
before Frankenstein may have been out. I hadn't seen either movie yet. The idea, I saw both trailers, and there were 2 specific shots in each one. The flesh wall in Wuthering Heights. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the movie, just go watch the trailer. You'll know what I'm talking about in about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And then like a specific frame in the Frankenstein movie where he's, doing that. But you see Jacob Elordi Frankenstein kind of parallel, and he looks more like a robot than like what we understand as like a Frankenstein creature, He's so sterile and cold and kind of fleshless. And I was very interested in 2 very diverging images from stories that I think
to fleshy.
Start in very similar spaces in terms of just what they're doing with imagery. And
Yes. Yeah, both based on classic British novels.
Classic Gothic
associated
novels.
with the Gothic genre. That we're studying right now.
Shout out Brit-Lit.
Shout out Brit-Lit, British literature, which is, we're doing good. We're getting by.
We just had a midterm today. Went so great.
Oh, yeah. And Katherine, what would you say is the Gothic genre?
That's a really good question. I asked Encyclopedia Britannica, and it didn't really give a definitive answer of what the traits were. And I think that's kind of the problem with trying to define what the Gothic is.
Yes.
Because
it's kind of a it when you see it type
it's a it when you see it type thing, and it's a thing that changes, right? Like Professor Wheatley, K-Dubs, gave us a sheet when we were reading The Monk, which I'm
looking for right now.
Gothic horror that talked about what the elements of the Gothic were, I think, when the genre kind of came into being in the mid to late 1700s. But then you've got kind of the Bronte's version of the Gothic almost a century later that I think has maybe better shaped our current understanding of what it is. Britannica basically just talks about like the setting, right? And it's called the Gothic because it evolves out of the architecture. It's in creepy castles and creepy houses.
Old Catholic churches.
And I kept going down rabbit holes. I went through Wikipedia. I went through the OED. Shout out Dr. A. And you've got creepy old Gothic style buildings. You've got elements of the supernatural. You've got fear. You've got claustrophobia. And I always associate the Gothic with a sense of like, this thing used to be great and now it is not. Ooh, or this thing used to be perceived as great and now the rot is being exposed. Decaying grandeur revealing like the skeleton.
And I do think that goes well with both
Yes.
our films.
Yes.
Yeah, I have the our Gothic sheet pulled up here for our class. We have Gothic plots. They involve, pursuit, persecution, paranoia. Man persecutes woman, woman persecutes man persecutes man, woman persecutes women, ghost haunts human being. A lot of ghosts, a lot of supernatural stuff, creepy crawlies and the like. No supernatural in Wuthering.
No, well, that's have you not read either book?
I've not read either book. I'm a bad English major.
You're a bad English major, but you're a good film bro because you're going to be able to talk more about the movies themselves than I am. There are absolutely elements of the supernatural in part 2 of the book. This is
interesting.
I'm once again doing the thing where we're 5 minutes in and I'm talking about the very end of the movie. However, spoilers for Wuthering Heights, published 1830 something. The movie ends.
Although I didn't know how it ended, but.
Wow. Oh, you were in for such a treat. Well, the movie ends with the you say I killed you, haunt me then line, which takes place about halfway through the book because, as I think we all know at this point, she only covered Generation 1. And Kathy does, in fact, haunt him then. There are definitely ghostly supernatural elements. The second half of the book is dead Katherine messing with everyone. For clarity, because I just know an English teacher of mine is going to watch this, second generation Katherine is the one that's more referred to as Kathy. I call them all Kathy because I like nicknaming my characters. Generation 1 Kathy is the only one that mattered.
I think you have the right.
Okay, I'll take it. It's an old lady nickname, but sure, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And besides both being adapted from novels of the same period, there's a lot of similarities in the changes they made, right? They both played
Elordi.
up abusive dads and I feel like I need to address the Jacob Elorphant in the room because anything good I have to say about Wuthering Heights, that's a huge caveat.
Yeah.
Not that I think he's a bad actor, but wait, have you been plugged into the controversy of that at all?
No, I didn't. What's the controversy?
That he's white. Okay.
And
once again,
yes, the race controversy. I didn't know that.
On the Dylan podcast and having to remind you all that I am lily white. I'm not qualified to talk about this. But, okay. This is contentious. I understand that Heathcliff is racially ambiguous in the way that racial ambiguity kind of equals moral ambiguity in that kind of novel, right? It's the same thing as, I'm not going to spoil Jane Eyre, you haven't read that yet. Ignore that. He's racially ambiguous. That said, unlike character from Jane Eyre that I'm not going to elaborate on, he's been kind of embraced in the years following as a person of color, and there have been adaptations that have depicted him as such. And so there was a lot of disappointment and outrage when Emerald Fennell casts a white guy.
Yes.
And when I was watching the Twitter buzz around the early trailers, it had been a while since I'd read Wuthering Heights. I reread it over Christmas, but then I was like, yes, Heathcliff is in fact a person of color. I don't know why they did this. And I went back and read the book. And again, it's a little more ambiguous, but nevertheless, when you're taking a character that is kind of a racial caricature and adapting them for modern audiences, the least interesting thing you can do is just make them white.
That's true.
And I think certainly there's something to be said for the fact that Emerald Fennell is interested in the concerns of the young, rich, and beautiful. And I think she strongly associates whiteness with all of those things. And that's a caveat to anything I have to say in praise of Wuthering Heights. That said, my English teachers can't watch this. I enjoyed the Wuthering Heights movie more than I enjoyed Frankenstein.
I don't disagree. No, I actually agree with that. You watched Frankenstein today, and we can get into that because we did watch. If I watched Frankenstein a few days ago, and we both agree on liking Wuthering more. Should we talk about the Frankenstein thing?
Which part of the Frankenstein?
The fact that we didn't watch it together.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't gonna out you like that, but
no, I'm here to. I'll take responsibility. This asshole. We were supposed to, we talked about this podcast for a while, and we were supposed to watch Frankenstein together. We watched Wuthering together, and I don't know what spurred it on, but it was after a night where I hadn't gotten much sleep, and I showed up to our British literature class, and I'm like, I'm going to go back to my dormitory, and I'm going to take a nap. And you know what usually helps me fall asleep is watching a movie sometimes.
Do you know how many movies there are in the world?
Several, at least. So I'm like, Frankenstein. And I didn't fall asleep. I watched the whole thing.
But I watched Frankenstein today, and he rewatched most of it with me.
I was there.
And we've come to similar conclusions.
Yes. And I would also, I know I've apologized. I'd like to make a public apology on the Pulp Diction podcast. I do not have a ukulele. Good reference.
Crazy reference. I don't know where that came from. Anywho. I'm trying to see what I had kind of an order I wanted to cover this in, just based on Wuthering Heights, but Frankenstein may have thrown that out the window.
Yeah, should we do one movie then the other, or should we?
There's like elements of each that I want to talk about as the thing.
Because there's a lot to say about both. I will say, I don't think either one is a great movie.
They're both solid 3 stars. There are certainly aspects I enjoyed of both.
I think they both have great moments. They have moments I love and parts that I very decidedly do not love.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Commercial break? Do you do ads?
I don't think
you've ever had an ad.
This episode's sponsored by Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Go to him to Frankenstein's bodybuilders. Okay.
Wait, that's good.
Anywho.
I don't know where to start.
Okay.
There were parts I liked, there were parts I didn't. They were both 3-star movies.
Yes.
Again, as a reader of the books, neither was faithful. I'm seeing, again, I'm far more plugged into like the Twitter discourse about either of these movies than I want to be. And I'm seeing a general sentiment that Frankenstein was a more accurate adaptation.
Yeah.
And that's just objectively
untrue. A lot
untrue.
of the people saying that are people that haven't read Frankenstein. Actually, I feel like
I certainly think they either haven't seen or haven't read Wuthering Heights.
I think a lot of the discourse around both of these movies is from people who want people to think they've read the book and haven't read the book.
Yeah.
And I'm
not being like nitpicky. I'm not saying Frankenstein is less accurate because I liked it less. It is just objectively following less of the plot.
Yeah.
Neither of them follow the plot well. Mind you, they're not accurate, but that's not what I was expecting going into either movie.
You went into Wuthering very much with the mindset, because it's the mindset you're supposed to go in with, that you're going to try not to view it as
an adaptation.
Well,
or that an adaptation doesn't necessarily have to be an adaptation of the story at hand.
Sort of not an interpretation per se.
Yeah, no, I think adaptation is interpretive. Thing. And I think
I think that's where my perspective as an uncultured failed English major can come in handy, because it's untainted. Aside from, I have seen a Frankenstein movie. I've seen the 30s, like 1931 James Whale original.
So fun.
And I will actually say, in terms of like just Gothicness and pure Gothic atmosphere, I think the OG Universal Frankenstein did it better.
That's really interesting.
Like I really don't think you can beat just the Gothic vibes of that black and white thunderstorm. It's alive. It's alive.
Interesting. I feel like it's been so parodied to death that I could never take it seriously if I sat it down and watched it.
I haven't seen it in years. It was probably one of the first horror movies I was ever allowed to watch. But I still...
Is it really horror?
It was horror at the time.
Would you categorize the 2 movies we watched, like, for this as horror? Like, they have unsettling elements.
Wuthering Heights is more of a horror movie than Frankenstein, and that's one of my issues.
I agree with that.
Because, I was talking about this a little bit with you. My big gripe, like what I first came away from Frankenstein with, it was that it's just too polished. It
too polished.
Be gritty and grimy and dirty and gross and just
And Wuthering Heights was
messy.
Gross.
Wuthering Heights was gross. It was.
And that's the thing with the Gothic, right? You're taking
messy.
This thing that's beautiful from very far away and turning, like, reaching into it.
You have some distance and it's nasty.
And Wuthering Heights was literally doing that with quite a few shots where we start off with a very, very close up. I'm thinking sort of the hanging, but I'm mostly thinking of the slug crawling up the window.
Yes. I didn't know what to think of that.
Like, Like, was it contributing anything like definitive to the story? No, but I think it was really essential to the atmosphere because there's shot after shot like that where we start with something disgusting. And I do think it's interesting that rather than starting with the mundane and pulling into the gross, we start with the gross and it pulls back to reveal the mundane.
Yeah.
That feels sort of like the opposite of what the Gothic as a conventional genre does. And that's, I think, one of the strengths of adaptation, right? She knows what you think of when you think of Wuthering Heights. She knows you think of the kind of the grittiness and the, excavating corpses. That's a thing that happens. And
I would say
she's flipping it on its head.
I would say Fennel also knows what you think of when you go to see an Emerald Fennel movie.
Yeah.
Because you have that opening where it's just black and you hear like moaning and grunting and you're like, oh, here we go. It's an Emerald Fennel movie.
And then it's a hanging.
It's not sex at all.
But is it?
There's like...
You've got the nun sort of like lusting for the hanging man. Doesn't he have like an erection as he's hanging?
Yes. And there's this weird sort of like intrinsic link between sex and death that opening suggests.
People are treating the hanging like they're at the club.
Yeah. And I really wish I'd thought about the opening more throughout the rest of the movie, but the movie kind of just moved on. I kind of just moved on. The movie moved on.
It didn't make a ton of sense in terms of the atmosphere of the rest of the story because the rest of Wuthering Heights is very isolated.
But I did really dig.
But I enjoyed it visually. I thought it was a really good introduction to the kind of questions Emerald Fennel is asking. Yeah. And I guess that's what I'm coming down to.
Yeah, no, I actually went into Wuthering expecting to dislike it, if not hate it. I was really into it, actually. I was shocked how into it I was. It's not great.
I enjoyed it.
Like you said, solid 3.5 stars. But...
I think I enjoyed Wuthering Heights a lot when I watched it and like had more problems the more I thought about it.
Yes.
I was screaming at Frankenstein when I watched it 6 hours ago, and have kind of mellowed out already since then. So they're meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
But no, and there's a hanging scene in Frankenstein as well.
There is indeed.
It's not sexual, nor is it particularly like reveling in its violence.
Feel like it's just
there.
It's just there. It moves the plot forward a teeny tiny little bit.
It moves an aspect of the plot that, again, wasn't in the novel, which is not inherently a problem, except that if you're making changes to when you're adapting something, because, again, like it's interpretive, you can do that.
Right.
I want you to be asking interesting questions of the source material that take it in a different direction or that weren't asked of the source material.
Yeah.
And I think to some extent, Wuthering Heights is doing that. I think there were pieces in the last 5 minutes of Frankenstein that tried to do that, but the setup was not there.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, I guess I can't really agree. I don't know what themes you're talking about. I mean, I know the themes.
But
everyone knows the themes.
Like, into Frankenstein, you have this, like, an embrace of the father-sonness and of the, like, forgiveness aspect that I just don't think were set up well.
It doesn't feel all that earned. I think that's what I came away from the ending not satisfied, certainly, but not really, I don't know. I wouldn't say unsatisfied, maybe a little unsatisfied, just because it felt unearned. It didn't feel like it had, I don't know, really earned the right to get there.
Right.
I don't know. Like, what were you thinking at that final? Was it the like last shot of the movie where he's like looking at the sunset? And yeah.
And you know what, that shot worked. The book also ends with him like carrying away Victor's corpse, but there's less reconciliation, there's less catharsis, which is also interesting. I don't know. The movie seemed to be working every single step. Every time things started to get a little uncomfortable, to stop and make sure you weren't too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It handholds you both in terms of story. We were both complaining about the Netflix movie of it all. There's intense... We're not talking about this linearly at all, but it's okay.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, there's certainly handholding in terms of like the movie thinks you're dumb.
Yes.
But there's also just kind of a thematic handholding where it doesn't dwell in the uncomfortable much, which Frankenstein is a very uncomfortable book.
Yeah. No, I was talking about Frankenstein with Charlotte a little bit. Shout out Charlotte, One More Rope episode. And she had an issue with like, he had like a kill before the events at like the boat, right?
The creature?
In the movie. In the book, he's like the creature. Yeah, he
Pop
kills
culture has
people.
gotten to me, by the way. I think I may have already called the creature Frankenstein, and I'm so sorry.
You were calling him that. Maybe not here. Maybe you did here, but you were calling him that earlier today too. And I was like,
I know.
Really feel
I'm
like
a bad English major. I'm a bad English major.
Anyway, yeah. Charlotte was saying like basically he should have killed more people.
He should have killed more people. He kills people.
Ambiguity.
And there's such a flattening. And this is another example of somewhere where Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein kind of started in the same place. A change both of them made was making each protagonist's father explicitly very abusive.
Yeah.
In Wuthering Heights, this made sense because you certainly have elements that are mostly explored from the gap from the first generation to the second of like the way, you know, familial trauma sort of shapes your like romantic and sexual desire. And that's obviously the kind of thing Emerald Fennell would like to explore, and so she does. To great effect, I think. I think the scenes between Margot Robbie's Kathy and her father were some of the best in the film.
I agree, actually, yeah.
I'm not sure it's serving a purpose in Frankenstein except to just kind of make all of the men sad little puppy dogs. In the book, Victor is so loved and cherished, and he's raised in this like perfect, happy family. And I think in some ways, this is something I was saying to Regan and Charlotte before you came back. I hate to flatten Frankenstein into being like for the girlies, but Frankenstein is kind of for the girlies.
He kind of is for the girlies.
And it's Mary Shelley, I think a lot
by
of
the girlies for the girlies.
What happens with Victor and Elizabeth, because she's raised alongside them. It's a Heathcliff situation. It's a siblings are dating thing.
Okay.
Is that they're raised in the same environment of like love and encouragement, but where Victor as a man, I think, is kind of socialized into kind of distorting this into this like God complex pride, I can do anything. It instills Elizabeth with this sort of sense of responsibility to, you know, family and such.
Value she places on life.
So I like the tragedy of Victor is that he cannot like pass that love along to the thing he makes, right? He's horrified by the thing he creates in spite of the fact that he's been shown nothing but love, right? So we have a little bit of sympathy for Oscar Isaac Victor when he's hitting the creature in the same way his father hit him, or if not sympathy, at least understanding. And that's just not there in the book. The book is a lot harsher to its protagonist, and it's harsher to the creature, because another part of that is like violence begets violence. Like that is sort of a book of generational trauma, but in a very in a much more nuanced and interesting way, right? We pity the creature even as we watch the creature kill.
And the movie lacks a lot of nuance, like you were mentioning, the Netflix writing.
They don't trust us. They don't trust us to root for a character that would hurt others.
No.
Which is also a qualm I have with aspects of Wuthering Heights. I think it starts off very strong in terms of its willingness to confront ugliness.
Yeah. Heathcliff and what's her face?
Isabella.
Crazy sequence.
Crazy sequence of events.
Probably the most like stereotypically Emerald Fennell part of the film.
The most stereotypically Emerald Fennell part of the film.
For better or worse.
The Isabella stuff becomes an extended BDSM montage, essentially. Like, she is very clearly and explicitly, and again, they don't trust us. The writing, there is a painstaking, like, 5-minute, yes, I consent to this, and this, and this, and this.
I'm going to treat you horribly.
Do you want me to continue?
Yes.
She doesn't even talk, she just nods with those big eyes.
That's
She's a great actress.
Yeah.
Well done scene. Isabella is, I think, maybe the one character in Wuthering Heights who is just a victim, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else is meddling, and it's horrendous. And it's one of those things that kind of force you to take a step back from the Katherine and Heathcliff and be like, wow, they're terrible people, and they're hurting everyone else with what they're doing. Right. And Wuthering Heights wasn't willing to do that, I think, because it was afraid that would kill any sympathy we had for Heathcliff.
Yeah. No, and it is interesting, because I do think it does still kill a little bit of sympathy by adding that like consent thing, but it makes it less killing. And because from my understanding, like, it's not consensual
It
in
is
the book.
not.
And by adding that, you get this weird effect where like everyone in the movie is sort of like in a weird way shaped by their experiences and just the position they're born into or forced into, any of those things. And like, I don't know, just the monsters they're forced to become, right? Or that they end up becoming. And Isabel, I guess, would be that, but she sort of gets herself into that situation by through that sequence. And I know book readers have strong feelings about that, and I don't know how to feel about it still, even after weeks after.
And it's interesting. It just, I don't think it works story-wise very well, because then they still try to play the fallout of it and the response to it as though like the events of the book had transpired, and she's very much being like, abused by Heathcliff. And so then we get this, first of all, this weird like BDSM equals like moral impurity. She's fallen there, like that in itself is irredeemable, at the same time that it's kind of trying to celebrate her agency. And it's Katherine.
Hello.
Motion sensor?
Motion sensor.
Fascinating.
That's good. Okay, I guess later
should
we're
move
gonna
around
have
a little more.
That's scary.
I don't even remember what I was talking about.
Isabella. And they do like a weird thing too. She gets an out from what's her face? Nellie. And
who was amazing, by the way.
Was she?
Really? You weren't a fan?
We can get into that in a second.
Because I do have something to say to like frame stories.
We'll put a pin in it. But she is like given an out, and she's like, I'm exactly where I want to be or whatever, and gives like a little coy little wink, like she's in control in this. She's not in control.
I think she's meant to be. I really think she is. I've heard all of the think pieces from everyone in Monroe about how that's actually like a depiction of how like you can of like love bombing, right? Or how you can like not realize you're being abused. And I frankly don't think Emerald Fennell is that smart or nuanced. I'm so sorry. No, I think she's supposed to be depicted as in control, right? I think she's supposed to be a willing partner in what Heathcliff is doing. And that just, it's a change that doesn't make sense, and I don't think serves the broader story well, because again, it softens Heathcliff.
Yeah.
And yeah, my ultimate disappointment with Wuthering Heights is also the thing it's good at, right? Like largely it's good at the grotesque and the nasty. Visually, it's very good at that. And I want to talk very specifically
100%.
About the visuals in both movies. But I think in terms of story, she shies away from that much more than the book does. And for all... Like for an Emerald Fennell movie, I was expecting it to be freakier. I'm sorry.
I was too, actually.
He digs
Saltburn
up
was
her
a lot
corpse,
freakier.
and and people were like, "Oh, it's so much freakier than the book." Like they never kiss in the book. Untrue. He digs up her corpse and kisses it, which is way freakier than any living sex scene.
Fascinating.
And it's an Emerald Fennell movie. I would not have been upset if he did more with the corpse than that. I'm sorry. Like, if you're going to be adapting Wuthering Heights and having like Charlie XCX in the soundtrack and having these big posters of like, "Come undone,
get freaky.
This isn't your mom's Wuthering Heights."
Yeah. Get freaky.
That was kind of my mom's Wuthering Heights. Dylan, there's words on the camera.
Let's find out what that means.
Commercial break again. You can get so much ad revenue from this.
Okay. It just said the movie you recorded exceeded the data limit. It was split into
How much did we lose?
2 files. We didn't lose that much. I think it, like, as soon as the text showed up, I assume.
Okay. I don't know how long the text was there.
Yeah, okay. It's fine.
It will be fine.
Like, it's probably around the 29...
We'll
probably around the
back.
half-hour mark, because this was started after that. Anywho,
Makes sense,
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah. One time, one of the early episodes, Labyrinth, we lost like half an hour of footage.
Oh,
we had the audio.
That's terrible.
No footage. So I just put a picture of David Bowie up.
Wait, that's beautiful.
Because you've seen Labyrinth,
Yes.
right? Okay.
I was shaped by Labyrinth. Also has some like unnerving gothicness to it.
Oh, true. Yeah. Wuthering Heights.
Wuthering Heights. Well, Isabella was disappointing to me because I think she kind of is a necessary like grounding for the movie. And again, I just don't think that's something Fennell cares about, right? She likes the bored and beautiful, you know? And she doesn't really want to interrogate the consequences of their actions that much.
Yeah.
At least not in a way that like will take away the romanticism, which
right. Like she does seem to want to preserve that romanticism, and
if they're punished, it has to be in a grand romantic, blood running down the walls death way.
As much as I think she does succeed directorially with the Gothic atmosphere, I don't know that she does so from a writing standpoint. Did she write the script
and the
as
writing
well?
Were telling two very different stories. I want to say she talks about it like she wrote the script.
Yeah,
she does. She must have written the script. And this is a thing we could Google, but
yeah, for sure. But
so Isabella was a disappointment in that, and I think there's something very similar happening with that complete absence of Justine Moritz in Frankenstein.
what's Justine like?
The brother that Elizabeth is engaged to, like, that doesn't happen. She's always been like expected to marry Victor. There's none of this weird brother possession stuff. They have a perfectly happy childhood. There's a baby brother who's like 3.
Oh.
There's Elizabeth who's their sister, but also Victor's girlfriend. Don't think about it too much. She's adopted. And there's Justine, who's like 50% adopted. She's a lady's maid essentially. They rescued her from poverty in the same way that they rescued Elizabeth, but because Elizabeth is like of noble birth, she gets to be raised as a sibling, and Justine's kind of raised as a servant. Don't think about it too much.
We sort of have a Nellie.
We have it, but she's not. I think in terms of the way she serves the story, she's more of an Isabella than a Nellie.
Yeah.
In that, so it's her job to look after the little kid, right? When the creature is first going on his like rampage, the first person he kills, if I'm not wrong, is the little baby brother.
Aww.
And it's to get revenge, and it's bad, and that's the thing. There's more nuance to it. But Justine was supposed to be looking after him, and she's like tried and hanged for his murder, right? Because Victor is too much of a coward to step up and be like, "No, I made the creature." It wasn't
her fault. Yeah.
And because also he makes the creature in private in the book, nobody knows about it, and I think isolation is such an important aspect of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting that for all we kind of nominally had like an abusive, dysfunctional family, there was actually a lot more on page of like trust and comfort and honesty between them, at least at first.
Yeah.
That others were involved in that process. That was a solo process in the book. And it's part of that, like that isolation is a huge part of what leads to his downfall. And that's another parallel between Victor and his creature that I think, again, was taken from us in order to make us more sympathetic
I feel
to the creature.
in the film, there weren't a ton of parallels between the two.
And yet they try to shove this father-son thing on us at the end.
Like, I feel like his forgiveness was, again, unearned. He doesn't have as much to do with...
Right.
They didn't have as much to do with each other. Like, they have all the time between blowing the lab up and him finding him again to ask for a companion.
Right.
And then Elizabeth gets killed, which you were very...
he kills Elizabeth too.
Yeah.
He asks for a companion, and Victor's at first like no, and then he changes his mind. He's like sure, and then he's like no again, and he destroys it. And on his wedding night, he's planning on finally telling Elizabeth the whole thing because he's like, once I marry her, we'll be safe. Not really sure what was going on in his head. And like on their wedding night, he like storms in and kills Elizabeth. We don't have that sympathy bond between Elizabeth and the creature, which could have been good. Pause. We're going to circle back around to female autonomy in a bit. But also, then you have the question of like, does the creature even like deserve to be able to extend that forgiveness, right? Like, has he become as much of a monster or more?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Justine and Isabella, I think both in their books kind of serve to pull you out of the kind of like self-pitying, oh, woe is me, I've been made into a monster of every other character, and be like, well, yes, you have. And these are the victims. And I think on that level, Frankenstein and Wuthering Heights are both kind of books about gendered violence. And Emerald Fennell, I think, watered that down in the name of like talking about like female sexuality, which is not entirely bad.
No.
And
that's the story she wanted to tell.
Yeah.
And she told it.
And
which is also why I think she didn't do the race thing.
Right. And Del Toro wanted to tell...
If he wanted to tell his own little story about...
there was a lot of Catholic repression in there, which is interesting. But also, it was an incredibly masculine movie. And I'd have a hard time putting my finger on a lot of the things that made it that, although I'll get to female autonomy in a second.
How about the fact Frankenstein ends on a quote from a man? That was...
He saw me scream.
Pissed.
Byron.
Lord Byron. What was the quote? Do you remember?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't fucking matter.
It probably matters. I'm so sorry. I'm being so annoying right now.
Like, she's looking at it and little emotional, and then not that I'm blaming you for being emotional. And
you hate women. Like Del Toro.
Black screen, whatever the quote is, Lord Byron, she screams.
Very loudly.
Like, what the fuck? Was that what you said?
I didn't finish the phrase, but that's where I was headed.
Yeah. And
just...
yeah.
What goes through his head to not include a quote from the author?
Byron.
What is going... And I think... Okay. So, characters, I guess. We've talked about the Elordi characters. We've talked about Heathcliff. We've talked about the creature and how they're both made more sympathetic.
I do like Elordi in both movies. I think
am blown away. He's a fabulous actor.
I'm sold on him as an actor.
I'm so sorry for ever doubting him.
Yeah, no, me too.
I thought he did.
He was perfectly like angsty as Heathcliff and the creature. Excuse me, and yeah, no, I said this to you. I think after watching Wuthering, like I was kind of sold on him as like a possible future Bruce Wayne after watching him as Heathcliff.
All you gotta do to be Bruce Wayne is brood. I'm sorry, I never understand like Batman fan cast. So Rock could play Batman.
You have the the charismatic little playboy side of him. That's the mark of a good. Which Batman's also a very Gothic character.
I mean,
I would say
Gotham City.
It is called Gotham. Yeah, that's probably like the most exposure I've had to the Gothic genre.
That's
just
funny.
all the Batman crap I've consumed over the years.
So yeah, we have male characters that are, I think, especially like reduced to, especially flattened in one direction or the other in Frankenstein. Right? We have a pretty evil victor and an incredibly pitiable creature. Heathcliff, for all my qualms with how far the movie wasn't willing to go, I think was pretty, a pretty three-dimensional character. I think Elordi did a good job. And Kathy was as well.
We haven't really talked about Kathy or Margot Robbie.
I also had very low expectations of her. I don't know why. I know she's a good actress.
Yeah. I think it might just be like
it's just the recency bias of Barbie.
Yeah.
Like that's really all. So like I could only picture her as Barbie. And Katherine is kind of Barbie. And yet she managed to be as nasty and Barbie-ish as she needed to be and also make it feel like a completely separate performance from Barbie. I was blown away by her performance. I think to some extent Wuthering Heights, the book, doesn't like Katherine all that much.
Oh.
And I think Emerald Fennell likes Katherine, right?
Which 100%.
Emerald Fennell is Katherine. I keep making really, really cruel assumptions about these directors that I do not know personally. But that worked well, right? I enjoyed how human she was without a lot of her meanness and pettiness being reduced.
Yeah.
I really, really, really enjoyed the scenes with her father. I think she was given interiority and desire and like guilt and shame.
The bit with the coins on the floor.
Yes.
So good. Not in the book, you told me. Not
in the book. And this is another, like, as far as just questions that are being asked by the movie that weren't necessarily asked by the book, you have a kind of repeated occurrence of Kathy harboring guilt and shame over her desires that Heathcliff does not. Heathcliff as a man does not. And
he doesn't gaff.
And like in part because he has less to lose because she's wealthier, but so it plays both ways. But my point is, I think she was given a lot of interiority and depth and desire that was mostly explored through Heathcliff, but definitely transcended Heathcliff.
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Do you think Del Toro saw himself in Victor or the creature?
I mean, if anything, I would imagine the creature. Emerald Fennell's like tagline in interviews was that like she wanted to adapt to the Wuthering Heights. She remembered reading it 12.
Yeah.
And I think the movie did that successfully. And I think the movie did that in a way an overdramatic and lonely 12-year-old would really put themselves on a Kathy. Del Toro has this claim that he said a couple times where he's like somewhere in the heart of this like little Catholic boy is like a 19-year-old Protestant writing a book for the first time. This movie was way too Catholic. And I just really wonder how he sees Mary Shelley, because I don't like, if he identifies with anyone, I would.
Who do you think Mary Shelley identifies with?
Right. I don't think Elizabeth or Justine are very realized characters in Frankenstein. I'm not saying like, oh, Mary Shelley was like the feminist of all time. Yeah. I mean, she was Mary Wollstonecraft's daughter, so like she was absolutely a feminist. I'm not saying Elizabeth is the best female character of all time, nor am I saying on the flip side, Emily Bronte was like a anti-racist, and that is why I have a whole rant about that, but that doesn't need to go on camera. 15-second rant on camera.
Go ahead, please knock yourself out.
The one thing that made me willing to go into the Elordi as Heathcliff thing with an open mind were these kind of claims that like, no, Wuthering Heights is actually about racism, and Emily Bronte is like making points about racism, and she was an anti-racist. And for her to have the kind of beliefs that are being ascribed to her, she just would have had to have a conception of race and class and gender that just didn't exist in her time and place. And when you're ascribing this level of like wokeness, for lack of a better word, to a like dead Victorian lady to discredit the current female director, I'm a little suspicious. And so that was the one thing that made me willing to go into the Heathcliff thing with an open mind. And while I don't think she particularly cared about the racial aspects, and I find that a little disappointing just because I think there's a lot of good material there.
Yeah.
I certainly think like Heathcliff was a realized character, as was Katherine.
Yes. And I don't think it was necessary, the racial aspects, for it to be a decent story. I think it was an okay story. That could have been a great story,
movie.
I'm sure.
It could have been a good story.
But
they both had such potential to be good movies.
Yes.
And I think Wuthering Heights certainly realized that potential visually.
Oh, 100%. I was really struck by just how good Wuthering Heights looked. From the cinematography, the set design, the costume design.
Absolutely.
People have talked about the costume design, and I think sometimes the discussion gets a little stupid because people will say like they're unrealistic for the time period. You don't think they know that?
Yeah. Okay, wait. I'm gonna finish my Elizabeth rant, and then from there we can actually flow into costumes very well. Because I think on the flip side of the interiority that Katherine is given in Wuthering Heights, there's this weird Freudian thing going on with all of the women in Frankenstein. Right? Justine is written out because, can't have those poor women that nobody's sexually attracted to in any way.
Of course.
His mother and Elizabeth are played by the same actress. It's Mia Goth for both.
That's right.
He's very clearly got an interesting relationship with his mother. And I, not only am I a little disappointed that just wasn't committed to, right? Like there wasn't as much done with that. I'm disappointed that that's where we're starting from, right? I don't think Elizabeth was ever more than an object of desire for anyone, right? She was Victor's like twisted Freudian thing, and she was just kind of the trophy wife for the brother. And even there was supposed to be like a difference in the way she interacted with the creature. And I think there was such potential in having Elizabeth know about the creature ahead of time and have a relationship with him. But it didn't play out well because even then, like he certainly seems to be interested in her in as an object to possess, or like at the very least as a mother figure. But there's certainly desire there as well.
And at the same time, like having Elizabeth know about the creature feels it feels like such a cliche to just have like this woman like soft and the only like friend.
It's so frustrating.
Creature.
And there's a point where Victor like accuses her of being into him, and she like spits back like it's not like attraction, it's like pity or whatever, but like it's attraction. Like that's certainly the way it was shot and framed. And she's, as much as they tried to give her own like scientist arc, she's framed by her sexual desire. And even her like brand of science, it's like she's into bugs, and it's painted as a feminine thing, right? She says it's a smaller version. She's interested in smallness. She specifically categorizes bugs as being purer and like following the paths of God. She talks about God a lot. There's this whole added thing where she like just left a convent. She was a nun.
Right.
There's such an emphasis on female purity and on like just purity in general. I think it's interesting that a lot of the creatures' dialogue is stripped and that it takes them a lot longer to obtain like literacy.
Yeah.
Because there's this sense, like she claims that he like didn't inherit original sin because he was made by Victor at one point, which is kind of the opposite of the implication of the book. Again, there's potential there, but instead it just everything becomes this thing about purity and the loss of it, and just way too much of an association with purity and like femininity than I would like. I think as little of a character as Elizabeth was in the book, she was even less of one in the movie, and that's incredibly disappointing to me.
Yeah, no, that is disappointing. I would have liked to see, because Mia Goth's very talented.
She's very talented, and there were certainly like aspects that I really like felt with her. You know, there was such potential with the relationship between the two of them. But yeah, it's disappointing that she was kind of reduced to this just symbol of pure womanhood.
Yeah.
And her costumes, not a lot was done with them.
No, they had some like weird, kind of crazy little stuff going on.
They had some colors.
They had some colors.
Frankenstein is, for objectively no reason, bumped up to taking place in 1857.
Oh.
I think mostly just because Del Toro liked that visual aesthetic, and that's fair. Like the skirts are big, the bonnets are big, and that's fun. And so like it was certainly accurate to the period in which he chose to set it, right? But I don't think beyond that, the costumes are doing a lot.
Yeah.
Compared to Wuthering Heights.
Compared to Wuthering Heights. You have these crazy, like, I feel like Kathy's always wearing, like, crosses.
Yes. Massive crosses.
And it's really
Very
interesting.
Belinda.
Yeah. And you have Isabella also wearing a cross in the one scene where, you know, do you want me to continue? And just the use of those was really interesting throughout that. And like
they're
I
over
mentioned,
the top, and they're ridiculous.
Yes, it's so ridiculous and exaggerated, and I kind of love it. It's great to look at.
The one costume that I like dislike is that like sheer tulle like wrapping paper she's wearing on their wedding night. But even that makes sense because she's a giant bow and he's unwrapping her. Like I understand what was being done with every single costume in that film. There was such intentionality to the visuals of Wuthering Heights that was
not
really
there for Frankenstein.
And not really there for Frankenstein. And certainly I think Wuthering Heights kind of almost tips into like, to quote Kim Wheatley, parodying itself. It's color graded like when everybody was doing like edits in 2020, it is that level of blue and red, but it's enjoyable, and the red is doing the things it needs to be doing. And again, you have these very intentional shots of things that are like viscerally disgusting, and then you pull back and it's just an ordinary mundane object.
Yeah.
You have lots of blood. You have the flesh wall.
You have the flesh wall. What do you make of the flesh wall? I've kind of been trying, like, mulling it over since watching it. Like, is she like surrounded by her skin? She's like trapped in a room of her own.
I think part of it's like present of her own making, of her own like selfishness. I think part of it is about just literal like in your face like physical sex. I think a lot of that's what it is. Like the sex is kind of gross.
Yeah. When
we see it, right? You've got the BDSM montage. You've got the flesh wall. You've got the horse bit. The horse bit. And Yeah, no, I think a lot of it's gross, right? Like the flesh wall is not pretty. That you've got her veins and her like little, moles, and I wouldn't want to be sleeping in that room every night. And there are parts where she's clinging to it in ways. There are scenes where she's actually touching herself, but the implication when she's like clutching the flesh wall is the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And then is that the room she dies in?
It's the room she dies in. And the leeches that were like being used to bleed her out are crawling onto the wall as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's maybe like where does Kathy, the thing you can have sex with, end and Kathy the person begin? Again, just for the sake of being as critical as this movie deserves, many people online have pointed out that it's a little weird. The brown guy is like, my favorite color is my white wife's skin.
Yeah, I guess yeah. Oh dear.
But it's a striking visual. It's the thing everyone remembers from the trailer, and it's a striking visual because it's a little gross and it's a little uncomfortable.
And I do like these little bits of symbolism that are just for the movie that you've told me are not from the novel. Like you have that. I thought the dollhouse was really cool.
I thought the dollhouse was really cool. And that was another just like kind of layers and layers of entrapment,
Yeah.
And I loved the amount of blood when she dies.
Oh my golly. It was ridiculous.
It's incredible.
And you had, if I remember correctly, like almost a winged sort of look about, that might have been the leeches. I don't know.
What do you...
Like, I don't know. There was like spread out behind her.
The leeches were spread out behind her when they were like trying to cure her, and then when she's dead, the blood is just, it's endless. It's flowing out of her. And then
really striking
is walking
visuals.
Up the hall, like the hallway of hell to her room. And that's the thing where I think I thought about this. One thing the handout in class said about setting in the Gothic is that buildings can kind of shift based on what the story needs, right?
Right.
Like, don't worry about how many rooms there are or what floor you're on. It's going to change to suit the story's need. And I think that's very true of Wuthering Heights. We never see that hallway before, right? The colors are introduced when they need to be there. We never see the staircase shot from that angle until Heathcliff is walking up it. I think that's a Gatsby class thing, right? He's like ascending and then like he realizes there's nothing up there but death. You know what? It worked. Yeah. Not subtle, but it worked. And that like long hallway of hell, wasn't there previously. And like, that's Gothic. That's creepy. It's like, what Gothic. Is the house going to be from day to day? You don't know because it's just an endless prison of like hideous luxury.
Yeah, I like that. And also in that sort of area, we have what's-his-face's room. Which is green. And we don't really see a whole lot of green. We see like reds, we see blues.
Yeah. I'm assuming money, but like...
Green, yeah. No, I mean, I haven't thought about this since I watched the movie. I don't know. I just took it as just showing he's like sort of different. He's disconnected.
It others him for sure.
It others him. And he like doesn't have the sort of compatibility that Elordi and Robbie have with each other, but they're what ended up together, and that's sort of the tragedy of it all. Is like that this is the relationship that was forced to happen, not necessarily the one that was best to happen. But would it have been best for them to be together? Because they're both kind of terrible.
They're both
very terrible. Not kind of.
I mean, the movie says they were doomed from the start. It says at the start that they were doomed, and then it repeats that line. It's not subtle about it, but it's part of the kind of what's so glorious about Wuthering Heights and why it like haunted us all at 14 is that it was never going to end any other way. And
I think that's the mark of a good tragedy.
Of course. And there's more, I think, redemption offered in the book by the second generation, and that they were able to like figure out their problems. But certainly I think it's the mess and it's the tragedy that haunts us. And so to that extent, I certainly understand why she only chose to adapt Generation 1. I think Nellie starts out very like compatible with them color-wise and slowly gets a little purpler.
Ooh, interesting.
Which I guess you could say purple is a blend between the two, but I'm saying she goes from fitting in with the reds and the blues to kind of becoming a color of her own.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. Were you not a fan of Nellie? You said something a minute ago.
I don't know. It felt like the fact that she was hiding all the letters, like she could have potentially.
I'm not saying she's a good person.
Well, yeah. She, and like, I don't know, the fact she knew Heathcliff was there and she like sort of pushed her to say whatever it was she said. I can't quite recall. Just all these things. Like she was kind of a manipulator too, which
she was.
Like, what else is she going to be? She was also forced into her societal spot. Like she's a bastard. Which is that book original or is that?
I don't really remember. She is kind of like, she certainly has that kind of bitter resentment for them in the book, but I think it's less of a plot point. She's the narrator. She's the frame story. Because the other thing with the Gothic is inception of story within story within story within story.
A lot of that in the monk.
Frankenstein does. Like the movie.
Frankenstein, yeah.
Wuthering Heights does not. I think there's like because I don't think the frame story adds anything in terms of like a film adaptation. I don't think it would have contributed anything visually. Yeah. And instead we took a character who has a really interesting narrative voice and gave her even more like autonomy and like a kind of emotional arc of her own.
Yeah.
I like that.
I do like
I don't think the frame story did anything with our Frankenstein.
No.
It's another like masculinization of it, I guess. Because what we are reading when we're reading Frankenstein is a series of letters from the narrator to his sister back home. And so I think like the things that are like of interest to him and to Shelley when she's writing the book are things that would be of interest to the sister. And we have a complete removal of that. We're just on a ship of lots and lots of men who are doing action movie things. And the action movie of it all was also just very like, it felt like a guy movie. And I don't want to flatten everything into guy movie and girl movie.
That's like my biggest gripe with Frankenstein is it felt too much like an action movie, a superhero movie even, and not enough like a horror movie. Like you have that opening with the ship and they rescue Victor and then
there's a fight scene.
And the creature
Why is there
comes.
a fight scene?
There's a fight scene and like I'm watching this, I'm like, I should be terrified right now. I should not be seeing much of the creature. I should be seeing like maybe snippets. The soundtrack should be horrifying and we should be like close to the ground, not seeing much. Instead, it's this sweeping wide shot, a real wide lens, and like you just see everything. And the whole movie, the camera has this like really smooth sort of movement craning around. It feels so artificial and not in a good way where it could be artificial mirroring the monster, but it just robotic and lifeless. Removed. There's a disconnect. I don't feel anything looking at these camera movements. It's just, I'm seeing what's happening.
We don't get those up close shots where I feel like we are touching the disgusting thing. Even when they're putting the body together, Frankenstein should be a more grotesque and flesh and disgusting movie than Wuthering Heights. It is a body stitched of corpses, and instead he looks like a robot.
He does. It's absurd. Like, yeah, these fight scenes, these action scenes.
And in spite of the fight scenes, there was less blood in this than in Wuthering Heights.
It has its moments. The jawbone is crazy. But
there's a disconnect there. Because at the same time that he's like ripping this man's jaw off, he's not the one to kill Elizabeth, right? Time.
Rats.
Disconnect.
Where were we?
Disconnect. Because I was saying, even as he's ripping people's jaws off, like he can't be the one to kill Elizabeth, like where we're removing all of the other characters he kills. And that's another where I'm just looking at this and I'm like, if I were watching a superhero movie, then yeah, fine. I would understand cool. Like the disconnect between.
If Frankenstein convinced me of anything, it's that Del Toro could cook on like an Incredible Hulk movie.
Right.
Put him on Immortal Hulk. He can do like shit with the body horror. Stuff with the body horror. I'm sorry, I didn't ask you beforehand. Do you want me to censor swearing?
I don't care.
Okay.
So fine. Right, and if I'm watching a superhero movie, I understand that like the violence enacted against like NPCs like is not going to sway the way I view the characters, right? But because this is a much more like docile and harmless creature, it's crazy that we also had these action scenes where he's killing people for the sake of killing them. There's a disconnect.
Yeah. Do you think we should have... So do you think that like sort of sandwiched narrative harmed the movie ultimately? Like if we hadn't seen what he was capable of, would we have maybe like... I don't know.
I don't think so, because I think even had they come later, those deaths would have felt jarring. I don't think there's enough build to them, right? I don't think we ever see a point where the creature like decides to reject society and morality outright.
And the captain's very quick to sort of be like, "You're chilling, get out of here, you rascal."
I don't think the frame stories serve a thematic purpose in the way they do in the book. You have kind of one line where he says to the captain like, "Oh, you're as mad as I am," because like there are certain like,
which is very like,
book is largely a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was followed up enough on this. I even think his kind of ending of like, "Oh, okay, so we'll turn the ship around and go home," was
tacked on.
It was tacked on. It didn't feel earned, nor did it feel satisfying.
Not really.
First of all, I like that the book ends with ambiguity. Yeah. Secondly, Miss Cheney, if you're watching this, there was a line in our catechism, and I don't remember it. There's an argument made by Frankenstein that like scientific pursuit isn't inherently like evil, or like, pursuit of knowledge more broadly isn't like inherently a bad thing. It's the pride and it's the divorce from morality, right? So I don't necessarily like that. Also, the motto was like "Stop exploring."
Oh,
that was weird.
That's true. It kind of did give that theme, didn't it? Because they turn around.
Yeah. And I think largely what the frame story served to do here was just narrate the movie for us.
It really did. And it suffers so much from Netflix writing. We were talking about this as we were watching it. Like every time the dialogue would finally get... The dialogue's such a problem. The dialogue would finally get kind of good. It would... And like you would even be like on the verge of tears, and then it would follow up with something like,
I was on the verge of tears, and then the brother told Victor, "You are the monster," and I just started screaming.
It was the funniest thing because I knew what was coming too, and I was like looking, and it is frustrating. It is frustrating because it has. I don't think it's a bad movie. It has moments that could be great. But
another thing I think with the Gothic especially is like elevated language, right? Like intensely flowery.
It doesn't have to be realistic.
Language.
It just doesn't have...
My problem with the dialogue in this was not that it was like unrealistic or stilted. It's that it was bad. It wasn't... I didn't feel...
It's expository.
Like the words were... There was no intentionality. It was tell, don't show. It was tell, don't show. It like the themes were narrated to us.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was so weak visually that we couldn't have picked up on them otherwise.
No.
Like, I don't think it had, like, as intentional of a visual aesthetic as
Wuthering
Heights did. One thing I specifically wrote was, for all this nonsense about purity, we don't get a single straight shot of blood on the snow. There was lots of snow and there was lots of blood.
So many opportunities.
So many. That said...
Like, for a movie that, like, derives straight into so many cliches, it avoids the one that would be kind of cool.
I like Del Toro. Like, I think he's a competent director.
I think the only other movie I've seen of his is Pacific Rim.
I've seen that, and I've seen his, like, Pinocchio. But the Pinocchio was good. That's what had me think this would be good. I think he's a competent director. I think there was certainly visual cohesion.
Yeah.
I think the themes were mostly well communicated. I think the scenes with Elizabeth and the creature were very well shot, even if I didn't like what they were doing.
Yeah.
I think the scenes where he's like feeding I want to call it a moose. I know it's not a moose, but that's a moose.
Elk ?
It wasn't a deer.
Wasn't a deer. It had antlers. And the CG animals were bad.
The CG animals were bad, but the scene where he's feeding the elk, I understood what was being... He didn't need to tell us. There was no narration there that was like, oh, like I fled like the like societal structures and humanity and found like peace and solidarity and comfort in nature, right? We picked it up and it was well done. Yeah. And then like 2 scenes later, we have this scene where he's like narrating as wolves are like eating sheep, where he's like, I understood then that The hunter does not hate the wolf, nor does the wolf hate the sheep. It's
Dude.
necessary that they're at war with one another. It doesn't even say what that cliche was like doing for our understanding of the creature either.
Yeah.
So many cliches put out. So many like biblical and literary allusions that I don't think went anywhere.
No, the books, dude.
The books.
He showed me a story. The first story.
And we get the Adam and Eve story. But then we don't stop and talk about what like Adam and Eve is doing in terms of the creature. We jump to the Tower of Babel, which we also do nothing with. Somebody please
Please do something with Tower of Babel.
Blockbuster movie that plays in the Tower of Babel in an interesting way. I have read one bad YA series, Gilded Wolves, if you're watching this, Ray, that talks about the Tower of Babel and does interesting things with it. We need to do more with the Tower of Babel. There's so much good stuff there.
So much.
And that's the thing. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's aware of the images and conventions of the Gothic.
Right.
He's just not utilizing them well. I think some of the better, more impressive visual shots are the ones with the castle and the lightning.
Yeah.
But those are
the scene at about the halfway point, I'd say, with the storm and sort of bringing the creature to life, although it doesn't immediately happen, might be my favorite in the film.
But it's also a scene that's been done.
He's
pulling on a very established visual aesthetic that was not in the book. It frustrates me a little that he tries to have it both ways of being a Frankenstein movie and also a Frankenstein adaptation. And like, yeah, maybe there's something like more Gothic to that than in the book, right? We've got the castle, right?
Beyond the nose cross imagery.
Beyond the nose cross imagery.
Which I did kind of vibe with.
I didn't vibe with the cross. I really vibed with It Is Finished.
I loved It Is. I'm a sucker for a good It Is Finished.
I like.
Which any godless heathens out there, that's Jesus's last words on the cross.
Before the dead thing is resurrected. So good. It's so good. I love over-the-top religious imagery.
Of course.
I think the Catholicism in this was frustrating, considering I think there's a very Protestant flavor of repression to Frankenstein. I've heard it like dumbed down to like Catholics think suffering is good, Protestants think pleasure is bad. And I would broadly agree with that. And I think that's in Frankenstein. But no, there were aspects of strong religious imagery. The castle was good, like both because that's an established Frankenstein thing, but because even if it's not in the book, that's an established Gothic thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, the buildings are important. The setting is important. Storms. He knows what he's doing. He knows the conventions he's working with. And I think he's just kind of throwing too much at the wall.
For sure. Nothing's sticking. He's not really 100% committing to any of this plethora of themes that he's throwing at the wall.
Right.
And it's a little frustrating because if he committed to one or two or a few, he could, I feel like, he could really dive into it. But as it stands, this is just a really mediocre, if that, Frankenstein adaptation and just a really mid movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that I think is getting a lot more buzz than, to be blunt, it kind of deserves because it's attached to Del Toro's name.
Yeah. I think, Frankenstein tries to do too much. Wuthering Heights is too narrow, I think would be my ultimate assessment. But yeah.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. I wanted to like them both.
For sure.
I really wanted to like them both.
Of course. And I don't know. I wouldn't say I'd say I do like them both. But I know that both could have been so much more than they are.
Yeah.
Frankenstein has a stacked cast. Like, we've talked about a few of them. Oscar Isaac does great.
When is Oscar Isaac not great? Like, we knew that.
I didn't realize Christoph Waltz was in it. But
that's another character that I just don't know what he added to the mix.
That's the thing.
Right? You're just kind of taking the like stock like mentor to the mad scientist character that I don't think has been in any Frankenstein story, much less the book. I mean, you probably know more about movie Frankenstein than I do.
I am woefully. Like, I've seen James Whale Frankenstein. I've seen Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein. That might be it, TBH. I'm not sure. I do want to see like the Robert De Niro, quote unquote, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I think that's what it's called, but any case.
Ooh, I want to watch that. Yeah, no, my only other movie Frankenstein is like Poor Things.
Right, which I haven't seen, unfortunately.
Which is a much better Oscar Isaac. Yeah, no, the cast is stacked for both. There were good performances given in both. I have no qualms about really anyone's acting. Shout out to the adolescence kid in Wuthering Heights.
Oh my gosh, yeah, adolescence kid. He did well. Of course he did good. He was wonderful in Adolescence. I remember after Wuthering, when I was talking with Charlotte after she watched it, I asked her if she made anything of Nellie casting an Asian woman as Nellie. We both don't really think it meant anything. We don't think Emerald.
I think it was mostly to absolve her of Jacob Elordi. Ditto with Linton also not being white.
Mm-hmm. I did on the call with Charlotte. I don't know if she told you about this because she said she'd tell everybody. I did ask her if they had Asian people in Europe at that time, and
okay,
yeah,
I. It's not a race blind movie. Like there's like a one-off line acknowledging that neither of them are white.
Right.
Well done, Emerald. Want a cookie?
Good job. Yeah, they just don't do anything with that. And that's fine. If that's not the thing, because from my understanding, it's not it's more of a subtextual thing in the book. But
there are a lot of things that are subtextual to the book that she's choosing to bring to the front of Wuthering Heights. And the things she chooses to talk about, I think she does well. Mm-hmm. I think at the end of the day, there are just more interesting things she could have been talking about.
She is actually talking about things, and that's where I think this movie succeeds and Saltburn fails. I am a Saltburn hater. Maybe I'll try it again one day, but as of right now, I'm a Saltburn hater. And because I don't think Saltburn is saying anything. I think Saltburn thinks it's saying something.
Right.
But it's not. And Wuthering Heights actually has a point that it makes.
Yeah.
Whether you think it's a good point or not.
It's saying something.
At least
and Frankenstein is not. And that's like, at the start I said, like, my main thing with an adaptation is not its like accuracy, but if it's asking interesting questions.
Yes. I like that take.
And at the very least, Wuthering Heights was asking questions.
It was. And it gave some answers. And I was intrigued by them, certainly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Any, like, burning thing you want to end on?
I don't know. I didn't take notes for either of these, actually. I was wondering if I should have, but it seems like we didn't really need them.
Took reading notes. Let's see what I missed.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I did say I feel like Frankenstein shouldn't have gotten as much buzz as it's had.
No.
And, yeah, I kind of stand by that. We were watching it with a friend who I will not call out by name, who was watching on, well, quote unquote, watching most of the movie while scrolling or playing Block Blast.
And she knows who she is.
Maggie. And she understood perfectly everything that was going on. That's not to say listen, we love Maggie.
You, as an individual, are welcome to scroll reels while watching a movie.
Yes.
But if you don't understand what's going on, that's your fault. And the movie doesn't have any responsibility to dumb itself to that level.
That Netflix is doing this, is catering to people who are doing that so that they can understand it. That's a detriment to everybody else who is actually watching the movie for a good movie and not to have background noise while I'm playing Block Blast. And
yeah.
Like we saw it in Stranger Things, and I've definitely had this rant on the pod before, but I'll keep ranting as long as they keep doing it because it's frustrating. And
yeah.
Now, I don't want to end on a negative Nancy note.
One thing in my notes that I didn't say explicitly in Frankenstein, there's also a scene where two of them are talking while pissing, and that was just another thing I flagged as like, this was made by men.
There we go.
Like, this is Mary Shelley wouldn't like this. It felt masculine in a way that Frankenstein never does.
Yeah.
But no, I said at the beginning that I think a big aspect of the Gothic is an unveiling of this sense of grandeur to reveal some sort of rot beneath. I don't think either explicitly does that, but I think Emerald Fennell very intentionally flips that on its head and starts with the rot and pulls out.
Yeah, which is really interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
And there's just nothing rotten in Frankenstein. There's
nothing
rotten.
Even the corpse, the living corpse,
is sterile
and lifeless. And the makeup looks good. It might be like I don't know if it's a color grading thing.
That would be worthy of an Oscar nom. Did it get one for that?
I believe it has a makeup.
That one I wouldn't be mad about.
Yeah.
It was good.
It might have costume design too. I don't know if I do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like there's some like.
They're very well made.
They're well made.
From what little I know about historical costuming, they're incredibly well made. They're period accurate in the places that they need to be. I just don't. Yeah. There's no rot. There's no rot. There's no grotesque.
Grit and grime. It's all too polished. Even the lab just feels kind of polished. I think it does a better job. I think when the lab's broken down and like exploded, I think that looks good.
It looks good.
That's nice and dirty.
We don't really get to look at it.
No, it's there very shortly. Oh, I pointed this out when we watched it. The shot I really liked where he holds up the picture and wipes the snow off.
That was cool.
And he's whose face was that? He was looking through. Was it his own?
It was one of the many corpses that was used to make him.
Yes, that's right. That was interesting. That was cool. And I wish it did more cool things like that. Instead,
and that's what the Gothic is. It's masking. It's images.
Yes.
It's what does this thing look like and what is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And instead you have just this floaty, disconnected camera that isn't doing anything. These constant wide lenses where you see the whole room instead of focusing and zeroing in on like little things. And like, I'm no cinematography expert, obviously, but I feel like it could have just been more interesting visually. It could have been more interesting narratively. And I don't know, musically even.
The one bit of the score that stood out was again an Elizabeth Creature moment, where these are also good shots where he's sending these little leaves down the like stream out, and like that's good. I understood the like desire for freedom. I understood the naturalism thing. The movie, the music, I think communicated that ache very well. There were flashes of really good stuff in both movies, and I really enjoyed them both, and I think they're both worth the watch.
I agree. No, I did ultimately at the end of the day like both. I didn't love both, unfortunately, but I do think everyone should, watch them for themselves. I think Wuthering's getting a little too much hate. Frankenstein maybe a little too much love, and like what Charlotte said that I very much agree with is that I think a lot of people have just been hating on Wuthering Heights to hate on Wuthering Heights. It's trendy to hate on, and I don't think it merits that.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's good. It's cool, and I vibe with it. I like the vibes.
Yeah. I like, also, they haven't read the books.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I think, like, I put these two together because there's an interesting visual aesthetic being reached for by both books in different ways. And I'm always interested in seeing how that's explored. And I think a lot of the criticism of both films has had less to do with the content of the books or the films and more to do with what questions you're asking of that visual aesthetic, right? I'm always going to watch an adaptation of like a good like Gothic British literature.
So good. No, I've grown to love Gothic British literature. I will be coming back
for if they ever make the Amy Lou Wood Jane Eyre. That would be so good.
Yeah, I need a monk movie now.
That is the movie Emerald Fennell should make.
Oh my gosh!
Please.
Emerald Fennell, if you're listening,
please, like find this.
Read
on
The Monk
Instagram
by
somehow.
Matthew Lewis.
Read The Monk.
And make a movie about it.
You won't have to change anything, but you can also change whatever you want.
Yes.
Loki, get Del Toro in on there for like all the statues. Legendary collab. That would be so good.
Oh man, yes.
They should give us money. Like
we should
be allowed to decide what movies.
I agree. I like that. We should be the studio people. On that note, I think that's a good note to end it on.
Excellent note to end on.
Thank you so much for watching and or listening to the pod. Thank you, Katherine. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Katherine, for coming on.
Thank you for doing this.
Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications when there's a new one. Follow on Spotify. Rate 5 stars. Follow on Apple Podcasts. Follow on Instagram that I post on sometimes, sporadically, when I feel like it. mostly fit checks when I feel like I'm dressed real nice. And I remember that it exists. But I think that's all I have to plug. Do you have anything to plug?
I have nothing to plug.
She has nothing to plug. All right. That's all for Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein.
Bye-bye.
Boom. Oh, whoops.